Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over the market, let's go over Tesla, and let's figure out what in the hell happened today, because the market is looking pretty darn good today, right? QQQ up a solid percent, SPY up almost 1.2%. Very nice day in the market. Unfortunately, Tesla down almost 5% on the day. That is a severe underperformance. So what in the hell happened? Well, let's talk about it. So with that being said, of course, Tesla is down about almost 5%, which is putting us at just over $197. By the way, we are obviously officially closing now below $200, which we haven't done. I mean, really, since technically all the way back here, May 26th of 2023, which I guess if you think about it, isn't that far away, but you know, it's still definitely obviously several months. Now, with that being said, let's talk about it. What does this all mean? So first and foremost, horrible day, painful. I am buying the dip. If you're curious, I am slowly buying this dip. Again, I'm not all-inning or anything like that. Obviously, I still have shares even from higher up that I've been kind of nibbling down at stages, and I will continue nibbling down at stages, especially in the 180s. But let's zoom out a little bit here, right? Let's remove all panic. Let's remove all, you know, emotion, at least as much as possible, and let's look at just really what does it look like? What is the chart telling us? So there's a few things here that I think the bulls will be happy to hear. First and foremost, again, I still think we're in this massive bull flag, right? Like I said many times, I still believe that we are in this large bull flag. Ever since pretty much the 100s over here, massive run up, pretty aggressive run up, and then now we're essentially having a massive consolidation, almost exactly as to what happened here. Very similar concept to kind of, you know, what happened right over here, right? We're playing out something very similar. So that's number one. I still think we're in a massive bull flag. It looks even more prevalent, I guess, if you will, on the weekly, right? This is more or less how I look at it, right? We have, of course, the pole from here, something like that. And then this, of course, is the actual flag. That's the pole and this is the flag, right? That's number one, right? Obviously, it doesn't mean that the flag is done yet. We still actually can go a little bit lower. The wicks today on were very strange throughout the day. It was very weird. It looks like it's actually fixed, I think, now. But yeah, the wicks today were extremely weird in the charts, if you notice. But nonetheless, the point I'm trying to make here is also, you know, there is still a bit more room to the downside, unfortunately, right? If we can't go back above 200 tomorrow, I do think that there will be more room to the downside. And I do think we will, let me get some water, excuse me. I do think we will enter the 180s because that essentially will be that fourth touch point at the bottom of the bull flag, which I talked about with you guys the other day, right? So we have, of course, where is it? We have it's a massive rally, blah, whatever, right? We have touch point 1 up here. Then we have touch point 2, touch point 3, touch point 4 is on its way. I mean, we're essentially at it right now. At least we got very close to it, but we didn't actually really get to it, right? It's in the 180s in my opinion, right? But nonetheless, touch point 4 is right around here again, about 185-ish, give or take right now-ish. And then, of course, touch point 5 is usually when you break through it. Sometimes you get touch point 7. Sometimes this can happen like this instead, and then you break through. That happens as well, right? But nonetheless, usually by touch point 5 is, for instance, right here, when you know you go up, you maybe get rejected a little bit, and then you rocket through. That's usually how these kind of situations usually play out, right? But again, not always, right? Take it with a grain of salt. So that's the main thing I'm looking at right now. On top of that, if we zoom out even further on the daily, you can see the RSI is oversold, but it's not just oversold. It's fairly oversold, right? It's sitting at currently what, 25 roughly, and it doesn't get here very often, right? You can count. I zoomed out pretty substantially here, right? Let's go all the way back, even all the way over here. Like this is quite a zoom out, right? While we can still see what we can, where we are right now. This is as far as I can zoom out while still maintaining the viewpoint over here. Now, if you look at the RSI, there's not been many times where it's literally entered oversold territories. Once was all the way back here in 2021. Then we did it again. I mean, not really here. We got pretty much right off of it. We pretty much bounced right off of it, but didn't really do it there. The next touch point or time we really truly got oversold was back when Elon was selling. This whole fall, obviously with other factors, you know, being considered as well, but you know, a respectable amount of it was the pressure of Elon selling. Not only, again, was just he flat out selling, but the principle, the idea, the fact that he is going to continue selling, or most likely will continue selling until otherwise, you know, being told, it puts even further pressure on the stock. And again, we entered oversold territory over here as well. We entered oversold territory ever so briefly over here when we bounced off of that 210 all the way here on the right. And now once again, oh, sorry, my camera's slightly in the way. But yeah, and now once again, we are oversold at the very bottom right. You can see once again, we're entering territories that we don't enter very often on Tesla. And I'm looking back about, you know, 2.5-ish years over here, right? maybe even actually almost 3 years. This is February of 2021. Actually, all the way back here is pretty much January, like almost 3 years. And we haven't entered oversold territory very often. And whenever it does, it bounces pretty substantially. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we have to bounce literally right now or else it's all over. No, we can still go lower. Like I said, we still have the potential bottom part of this bull flag to touch, right? Which again is in the 180s. But just keep in mind, we don't enter this oversold territory on the RSI this often. And when it does, it usually gets a pretty sizable bounce, at least back to the median of the RSI, wherever that takes us on national stock itself, but at least the RSI gets a sizable bounce. Let's just say that, a sizable bounce from this oversold territory. So those are like the main things I want to give the bulls, because I think the bulls need some help here, right? I mean, I'm a bull as well, because today was an absolute bloodbath of a day for Tesla. So those are the main things that I'm looking at right now that are bullish, honestly, that are arguably bullish, that are arguably a pretty good sign. But again, this is kind of what happens when you fall out. I removed that big channel. You remember that big channel we had? I'll just show you very briefly here, just for the sake of purposes, right? You remember this one, right? We had this one here the whole time. I removed it now because it's kind of done for now. And I just replaced it with one line because that's the only thing that matters now. But, that's what happens when you fall out of such a large channel. You get a pretty sizable drop. Now, even with that being said, this drop is pretty substantial. Like, let's just talk about from when we fell out, right? This drop to where we are now is 18%, which for Tesla is a lot, or not that much rather. For a typical stock, it's a lot, but 18% for Tesla kind of feels like another day or just another like week or month or whatever. So it's nothing too completely crazy, but nonetheless, it's still a sizable drop. And that's what happens when you fall out of a massive channel like that, ascending channel, right? So keep that in mind. Now, let's go to the 65-minute chart quickly. So the other day, or rather last week, I did a lot of posts today to my members, but let me go ahead and zoom all the way down to where, the bear pennant, this bear pennant. We talked about this bear pennant the other day, and it's called the bear pennant for a reason. We obviously broke down below it, right? That's obvious at this point, right? I think that's kind of goes without saying, right? It pretty much was like, I guess if you're curious, I'll just redraw it very quickly here, but it was obviously something like this, right? And then I had something like this, right? Give or take, right? And of course, this candle over here, bam, broke right through it. Unfortunate, it happens, but it's a bear pennant, right? It should be expected. Doesn't mean it has to happen, but it's expected. Now, with that being said, we are technically now, this drop today has potentially formed into a bullish pattern. A bearish pennant is, of course, a bearish pattern. Now we're potentially in a descending wedge. A descending wedge is a more bullish pattern. What is a descending wedge? Well, that's essentially where you're pretty much kind of moving to the bottom right like this, very slowly, getting tighter as it's happening, as you can see, right? Let me go ahead and bring this out right here so you can see. As we're kind of moving down, we're kind of getting a little bit tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until you kind of explode like this. That's usually kind of how it roughly plays out. And on top of that, usually what you want to see in these situations that I like to see is you want to see a bit of a bullish divergence on the RSI. So in other words, as we are going lower and lower and lower, the RSI is making higher lows. And I mean, it kind of made higher highs, but more importantly, it's making higher lows. Well, I like to see that, right? I like to see the fact that it's making higher lows while the stock is making lower lows. That to me is a bullish divergence, right? That's a good sign to see, and I like to see that, which is promising. Again, it doesn't mean that it has to bounce right here, right now. It absolutely can, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to. But what I want to see is I do want to see a bounce here. Ideally, I want to see a recapture above 200. I want to see it come back up to the top of this channel, which is somewhere around 205, which is pretty fitting because that's where we had the nice little support around here on these candles, right? Around 205. Ideally, break through that and go back above 205, break out of this bullish descending channel. And from there, I think we can make a nice move up, and hopefully we'll see if the bottom is in or not. We'll of course talk about that later. I still don't know if even if this were to happen, I still not super convinced the bottom is in. I think there might be one more bottom ahead of that until we really truly test the bottom of this channel. But nonetheless, that is something to consider as well. Those are the main themes I'm looking at. Now, let's take a quick look at options flow. There's a few things. Oh, it's actually gone. Oh, no, it's right here. Go ahead and increase the premium to about 50K, right? And the most important thing to pay attention to here is, so we have a smaller one over here, 1.4 million in premium, right? We have 165 puts expiring June of 2025. Well ahead of us. But we also have one here, 180 puts expiring June of 2024. Almost 3 million in premium, and it's still here. So at least seemingly it's still here. So we'll see. I mean, that's a pretty darn massive print. That's 3 million. That's obviously a whale. So that's something important to understand. Thankfully, it's only a 180 put, so it's not something really, really far down. So it's a relatively safe put, and it definitely has time to it as well. So it's nothing completely overly bearish in the sense that like it's like some crazy like 100 put, 3 million premium, 5 months out or something like that. It's a nice amount of distance or duration, right? It's about 8 months out, and it's almost in the money. So at least it's not that far out from where we are right now. So, it's not ridiculously bearish, but it is something to consider. And that tells me that maybe if we don't recapture 200, the 180s is next, honestly. And then we really touch that fourth touch point on the bull flag, and then we get a nice and beautiful bounce off of that as well. But those are the main things I'm looking at, right? We have, of course, the 200-day moving average. We're obviously in the daily closing below it. The weekly is currently below it. Obviously, this is just the first day of the week, but with the week, of course, just starting, we also have FOMC on Wednesday. And of course, we also have Apple's earnings on Thursday, two major factors that can contribute overall to the market and Tesla for this week that you should be paying attention to. But those are the main things I am looking at as of right now. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. It's painful. It sucks. It hurts. It's not good. But again, don't forget, October, pretty much the worst month for Tesla. November, one of the best months for Tesla. Take that for what it's worth. And tomorrow is the last day of October. Truly a spooky end to the month. But nonetheless, that's it. That's what I'm seeing. And that's what I currently foresee as well. So let me know what you think down below. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. And as usual, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.